Okay, this video is going to tell you about the big problem with Google and Facebook ad accounts getting hacked and what you can do about it so your account doesn't get hacked and potentially lose thousands of dollars from getting your account hacked in terms of wasted ad spend going to some other asshat who ultimately stole your account and was sending traffic to their own stuff, or just getting your account outright banned because a lot of the people who hack accounts also promote stuff that's not allowed, hence that why they want your account and actually have lots of accounts that they burn through to get what they want promoted and have a long-lasting way to drive traffic at their offer. So with that said, I'm going to get into it. I'm going to explain why people are hacking accounts, what you can do about it, what the potential damages are, and what I do basically all in all to make sure my account doesn't get hacked and the accounts of which our clients, so give tips to our clients so their accounts don't get hacked, and then also giving you some idea about why other people get hacked, knowing and hearing from many people at our PPC firm, people getting their accounts hacked from their side with their passwords, why it's happening, and then therefore and with that what you have to do to make sure that doesn't actually happen to you and have one of the things I mentioned, losing money, potentially losing your account, or at least be suspended for a great while you sort out all the issues with it. And explaining to Google and Facebook, no, I did not promote a porn or pill offer on my account. This was somebody who stole my account, working it out, and then having 2 weeks of downtime in which your ads are not making money, which you were counting on to run your business. That all said, we'll get into the brief overview here of why this happens, and then what to do actually about it so you don't become one of the many people now that are getting their accounts hacked. It's become a really big problem nowadays, way bigger than you probably realize, which is why I actually finally came out and made this video. So did you know that there's a very heavy market out there for aged Google and Facebook ad accounts? Keyword aged being that accounts that have run longer, have more reputation built up on them. So if you want to go ahead and promote something that's nefarious or unscrupulous, the review team doesn't review your stuff as hard if they've reviewed your stuff in the past and you've never had a problem with them. The accounts will sell somewhere in the $500 range each, literally speaking, and that's basically 50 times more than what your name, social security number, credit card number would all sell for on the open black market. And so that gives you a general idea of why these accounts are getting hacked so much. And to give you an idea of how much they get hacked, I'd say about 5% of the people, maybe 10% that I interact with at some stage, you get their accounts hacked. And this is even with the new advanced level security features like two-factor authentication, which if you're saying, Corey, I don't have this problem, why am I watching this? I have two-factor authentication set up on my account. Even that doesn't stop your account getting hacked anymore. Because there's people, first of all, that know how to figure out how to work around it, but the accounts are so valuable that a lot of resources have worked around the security issues that were there to prevent them from being able to get your stuff in the first place. It's become so big of a problem that and Facebook and Bing ads are going to force everybody to use two-factor authentication even if they don't want to, because the issue is so bad and is blown out of come to great proportions that even they don't want to deal with, because obviously Google doesn't want to promote a porn offer and they're tired of their customers getting their accounts hacked, so they're going to force you to have higher security. So with that said, with this kind of a prize for your account information, there are all kinds of vultures out there that are looking for your credentials with all kinds of creative ways. There's a whole cottage industry of people who are going to do nothing or as a part of a whole enterprise try to get your account information, and then ultimately what they do is they sell it on to other parties who use it. So there's people out there that all they do is hack, they find the information, there's websites and dark markets where they can go and sell your information, and with that usually there'll be a middleman who buys the information, packages up, and then reselling it to somebody who buys 50 accounts at a time and then has a whole system going where they use the account for so long, it gets banned, they go to another account, and then they go in there and they'll just set up one campaign so that you don't see it if you're actively using your account. Or if you're not actively using your account, they'll still do one campaign, but you won't see it for months a lot of times if you're not watching your billing. And why am I getting billed from Google ads or Facebook ads when I'm not advertising on there anymore? Of course, the more you advertise on Google and Facebook, the more you stand to lose, because ultimately they can run a bigger campaign and it mixes in with the rest of your stuff, so it doesn't look out of the ordinary when you look at your bill. But with all that said, there are definitely things you can do to put a 100% barrier between you and these bad guys so that your account doesn't get compromised. It has to do with just being the person that's in that 5% category of people who did enough security stuff that these people that run these businesses who buy and sell these accounts and use them and whatever, they just assume 5% of the people that they get information for, they're not going to be able to use it because these people have done too much security stuff, and it's just a normal loss that's baked into the business. Just like if you had a business and you got so much shoplifting, you just know there's going to be so much shoplifting. They know there's so many people that do these few extra things that I mentioned that it's just a part of the game, and they don't worry about that. It's just they just know it's going to happen, and they don't, they just, instead of trying to do the extra work to get the last 5%, it's actually effectively easier just to get another login. So to say, okay? So you want to be in that 5% category, which is not that hard to do if you know what to do to set this up and know the gravity of the situation, knowing that if you do nothing, I'd say, it's not, if you do absolutely nothing and no two-factor authentication, over the next 10 years, if you use your ad account, there's a 20-30% chance that at some point your account's going to get hacked, because there's so many ways that they get your information. One of which, most commonly people get hit by, that people don't think about too much, is whatever you use for a login on Google ads or Facebook ads, you use that same password and login on everywhere else, where these hackers will set up a legitimate website that looks like a totally legitimate business with lower prices than normal to get you to buy from them, so they can just get that password because it's worth it. And if not, there's phishing attacks where they just set up a website that looks like Google or looks like whatever, and you log into that and really you're just giving your information over to the bad guys. The other big thing is people hack into your device, and so if you have the password stored on your device, they can get it. So this is information will all come in handy as I explain what to do to actually prevent these people from getting your stuff in the first place, which you can, like I said, you can lose your whole account over it. It can get suspended for a couple of weeks while you have to sort this out. It's similar to, the bullshit you have to go through when your credit, your identity gets stolen in a way. There's a lot of pain and a lot of monetary loss. If you actually get your account compromised, Google and Facebook are not going to give you that ad spend back. It's clear that we're negligent. Sometimes they'll give you the money back, but don't count on it for sure, which is why you want to do this stuff. That said, for most people, two-factor authentication is what most people were using to protect their accounts. Two-factor authentication is essentially a second login when you go to log in. Instead of just using your password and your email to log in, you actually have to get a code, an additional code, which is, you can think about it like a second password, and put it into your device so that if somebody gets your password, if they don't have the second password, they can't get in. If, respectively, they're, basically, because if they get your password and they sell it to somebody else, then they're on a new device, and being on a new device, Google and Facebook then says, hey, I've never seen this device before, I want your second password. To keep it simple, that's basically what two-factor authentication is on its own. Google, Facebook, and Bing are going to basically soon force you to use two-factor authentication. Google's already starting to do that, but just because you have the two-factor authentication, you're not good. There's some certain things that you still got to know, because I know all kinds of people who had two-factor authentication who still got their accounts hacked. I've seen 20 people over the last 10 years that got their accounts hacked, and it's more so recently. Because it's really getting bad recently, and that's why they're requiring it now at Google, and it will be soon with Facebook and so forth. But within the two-factor authentication, the SMS is the worst one. It's the most defeatable for several reasons. SMS gets transferred through the internet in plain text, or through the air in plain text, I should say. And with that said, you can capture that and use that to get around the system. You can, if you clone somebody's phone, you can actually get the SMS and compromise someone that way. There's several ways that SMS isn't secure. They can get the SMS code to have that second password, so to say. It's a hell of a lot better than no two-factor authentication, but like 100 times better, but still it's not good enough really almost anymore. Your stuff is just that, still has a high chance of getting hacked because of how much these accounts are worth. A programmer that makes, $30 an hour in Eastern Europe steals one password, sells it. That's obviously 2 days work right there. They'll make more money doing this than they do working legitimately, which is why they do what they do. So the other thing that can happen, respectively, is they can, before we get that, to that, from the SMS, what I would say is SMS is pretty good. If you want extra protection, switch over to using Google Authenticator. And with that, you can take another step forward, which is USB type based authentication, which is where you go on the internet, you type in USB authentication devices. They're about $10. You buy it, and then through Google, through Facebook, through Bing, instead of using the SMS verification, they give you an option to use USB-based, which you have a security key saved on the USB device, and when you log in, instead of sending a code to your phone with the two-factor authentication and using the SMS method for two-factor authentication, which they text you the code which serves as a second password. You take the code, you give it back to Google, Facebook, and they say, okay, this device is verified. Ultimately, you can go ahead and finish logging in now, or you're logged in now. Instead of the SMS code, Google Authenticator you can download Google Authenticator for your phone, and with that, instead of sending the SMS code through the air in non-encrypted format, the website's going to communicate with your phone, and through that Google Authenticator app, it'll give you a code, which is it's just a string of numbers, just like SMS would be, and you give that code to Google and Facebook, and then you're authenticated that way. In that case, they need access to your phone physically. There's no like phone cloning and these other ways to to do sniffing of the SMS code, and it's more secure. The USB code, having your two-factor authentication done through that, is the most secure, ultimately, because specifically so it'll give you a key that goes on your USB device. When you try to log in, it'll want your second password, which in this case your second password's in your USB, which Google and Facebook set you up with that code on your USB. It's a little USB stick is what it's on, and you have to have that USB device plugged into your computer. Once you log in, if you remove the USB code or USB device stick or whatever you want to call it, once you're logged in, somebody has to have access to your physical USB device in order to fully log in. So if they steal your password, unless they got the USB stick, they can't log in. Respectively, if they had access to your phone though, and you had your password, they could log in. So technically, you log into certain things with that phone. If that phone gets compromised, right, and they have your password, then they could still log in, so to say. Okay, so depending on how secure you want to be, you can use the full USB based authentication, which in and itself isn't good unless you physically remove the USB stick from your computer in between logins. But that would be the best option. Otherwise, I would recommend Google Authenticator, and if not that, plain SMS is fine if you're gonna, but at least one of those three is the bare minimum that you need anymore to not be like have an extremely high chance of having your password and your accounts compromised at some point in time. But respectively with that, so even though there's the SMS authentication is pretty good with that, as well as the Google Authenticator, but with these two, the SMS and Google Authenticator, a lot of times people, like I was mentioning before, people hack the computers and they'll look through the whole computer for passwords, and if they can find it, they can sell the password. Sometimes what they do is they hack access to the computer itself using, which some people call slave machines or botnets. And so what you can sell instead of the physical password is, well, you need the password, but password and access to the device or one or the other. But even if you don't have the password, you can sell access to the device. You get into portal into the device, your device, assuming they got access to your device some way, which there's many ways to get access to devices and turn, so they can do anything they want on your computer. They can sell that access to your device onto somebody who wants to run a campaign in your Google account. And then, of course, if you're already logged into that Google account, they can just get in there and do it. And so what you also want to do with your two-factor authentication, after you log in, it'll say, remember this device? You want to say never, because if you never remember the device, every single time that you log in, you'll have to re-verify everything. And if they get access to that device and they try to log in, so naturally you would have to, every time you're done with your Google Ads or Facebook account, you log out, so that if somebody gets access to your device, they would need to physically log in, and they would need to verify the code on your phone, which is not, that's separate. The phone is separate from your desktop device where you're doing your accessing of Google or Facebook or whatever, right? Of course, if you're doing accessing Google and Facebook on a mobile device, you want to do the authentication, the Google Authenticator or the SMS verification on another phone. So if they get access to that phone, they would need access to the other phone. But going back to what I said before, if they get access to your device and they try to log in, they have to verify the code, they can't get access. So a lot of people are going to be able to get access to your machine and then sell the access to the machine versus the password. So you definitely want to, as you're logging in and verifying your code, not to remember this device, so that when you go log in next time, it'll ask you to re-verify, and when you're done, you log out. So for sure, if they get access to your device and you're not working on the account at that moment, even if they have access to your device, they can't actually log in, which also adds another layer of security to this whole thing that I would recommend. Again, if you say, remember this device, then if they just have your password and they have access to your device, they can get in there, log in, they're done. Or a lot of people will just not even log out. So if they have access to your device, they can go in there, set up a campaign, and exit your device, and it's there. So there's some different things to definitely think about. Those are all things I would recommend, because these accounts are such a hot commodity anymore, to protect yourself. Beyond that, there's also, and just to top this off, you really want to be secure, and I do highly still recommend this, even though it's a pain in the ass to actually do. But what I'm going to do on my stuff, and what I always advise other clients of ours to do to really protect, 100% protect yourself, is to do the two-factor authentication. It can be any type. Like I said, you probably are going to do the best with USB. That's going to have, instead of, part of the reason why USB is better, instead of having 6 numbers, a string of 6 numbers to give back to Google or Facebook to authenticate your device, the encryption key with the USB device is a huge long string, so it can't be guessed through brute force attacks. But the problem with USB is people don't remove the USB stick from your device. If they get access to your machine, it's still plugged in. They already have your, a way to now get onto your and do the, and assuming that you said that don't remember this device and you've logged out of your account, they get into your account. As long as they have their password, your password already, because they got it from some other place, some other website that you logged in somewhere, they go to log in with that password, and then that USB is plugged in, they can get in. Whereas if the USB was unplugged, it was fine. Or whereas if you would have had Google Authenticator instead of the USB stick, you'd be still good because they didn't have access to the phone as well. But anyway, I'm going to every time use two-factor authentication, and I'm going to point the two-factor authentication to a phone that's not in my actual name. So through different methods, they don't know how to find the phone that basically would have the two-factor authentication on it, whether that's SMS or through Google Authenticator. And I'll try to limit what I do on that phone. The best would be a phone just for authentication, but a lot of people obviously can't do that. But a different phone that's not mine would be the best, not tied to me logging in and all the same stuff on this phone, in which I authenticate my Google and Facebook with, and my desktop device, which I access Google and Facebook with, but I log into all the same websites and everything. And you want more of a clear separation between the phone that's used to authenticate your logins and the device in which you normally access your Google and Facebook account, if you can get it. But beyond that, I recommend, and of course beyond logging out of your accounts when you're done, clicking not to remember this device once you log in, so that you always have to re-verify through the two-factor authentication when you log in every time, and have to have that phone, make sure you have that phone as a part of the process to log in on that device. So if they get access to your device and they don't have access to your phone, they still can't do it. Weekly password changes. And this is important for this reason specifically, and why I said I would come back to this. From what I was explaining in the beginning on how people get access to your stuff, why they get access to it. People who and how the market works. People on the black market that sell these logins for several $100s, they basically, like I said, there's people who all they do is just get the passwords. They're not the ones using them. Then there's middlemen that bunch them up and then sell them on to the actual people who run, different offers. It could be a porn offer, whatever, something that they can't run on their own account because it would get shut down. Therefore, they need a ton of accounts to, rattle through, and they make up what they're paying for the cost of the account with the free ad spend that they're going to get as well. But the time it takes for somebody to hack your account, get your password, otherwise get your password, and the time that the person at the end of the chain uses it will be, quite a while. Most of the time, what I've seen personally, and in terms of, and I know this because I know how often people change their passwords and then the different policies people use, it can be a couple weeks. So it'll take a couple weeks before the end user who pays for it and are going to actually use it to actually go into your account and use it, place their campaign in there, hope you not see the campaign, and it runs for months, if not years, without you noticing it. If you change your password every week, you see how that would break the ability for them to do that. It's just physically, by the time it gets to the end user who uses it, it's already something else. So whereas it's a pain in the ass to change your password every week, you combine that with these other security features, you basically got a foolproof way to totally protect your account every time. Okay? I would also recommend that as a part of your strategy. If you have other people that access your accounts at your company, you want to get them for Google and for Facebook, get them their own accounts, and make sure that all the other accounts have to also have two-factor authentication on them. There's a way to absolutely enforce that through Google specifically, and you can also, if you do, what you want to do on their accounts is force. You can, like through G Suite, for instance, you can force a password reset every week. So their password that they're logging in with, which is separate from your login, which everybody's got to have their own login, because Google, through their own security systems, if everybody starts using the same login, it'll constantly throw up security flags. Generally speaking, there's ways around that, which I won't get into, but they're going to use their other logins, which you usually have to do to share access to your ad account. All those through if you give them a corporate email, that email through your email system, make them reset their password every week. Then if their password gets compromised by time, again, they go to actually use it, it's already it's no good anymore. We actually use 3 days. We change the password every 3 days. If it's every 3 days, basically, more than likely, it's not, they're not going to get the password right after we changed it. It'll probably be sometime during that 3 days, so it'll be like a day and a half they have to use it. Nobody's going to have time to use it within a day and a half, because since the person who steals it isn't the person who uses it, and therefore, that works real good. And we're just really overly paranoid, seeing how many people's gotten their stuff stolen and lost thousands of dollars in the process. Their accounts shut down for weeks. Well, Facebook takes forever to give you, because basically, if you pay for the money, because here's the thing as well, if you want a refund from Facebook, they got to do an investigation, and that investigation takes weeks. If you would have paid the money, then there's no investigation. You could basically use your account right away. But while they're doing the investigation, you can't use your account. So they kind of got you by the balls in a way. If you need this, you're counting on the sales from that Facebook account, you kind of just have to pay the ad spend in which that person who planted a hidden campaign or a new campaign or otherwise a new campaign in your account spent that money. You're just going to have to eat it to make sure that your account doesn't get shut down during that investigation process. So that's a whole nother thing that I would recommend for you to do. And so respectively, if you want to add to that, if you do actually add other users, make sure when you fire them, you always remove their access. All kinds of people that I deal with, they fire somebody or whatever, and they don't remove access of those people, and they'll have people, all these logins. The more logins you have, the more insecure your account is. So you want to also do that as well. If you do have other people, the chances are that they're going to remove the USB key every time they need to authenticate is very low, to the point where I don't even suggest thinking that. If that's the case, what I would recommend, which is our hack, is, okay, they can authenticate on their own device, and if they're all logging into the same login, just have ultimately change the password every week, and then just make sure that one responsible person has a dedicated phone in which to to do the verification process, and everybody's got to ultimately log in and get the code from that designated person who has the designated phone for this, all at the same time within 15-minute period, and just do it all at once. But respectively, it is more secure not to have one login for a bunch of people. If a bunch of people do have to access your account, you want multiple logins there so that they can do the SMS verification on their own device, assuming that you can control how often they have to change their passwords, and the fact that you can control that they have to do two-factor authentication with their accounts, which you can do through G Suite, and so it's fine. Apart from that, I don't have too much other to share. I gave you my policy about how we do things, how we actually don't have any problems ourselves at our PPC firm here, and how to actually prevent it so that this doesn't actually also happen to you, and what can potentially happen with your account if you do have an issue. It's happening more and more all the time. You don't want to gamble with your account. Told you all the issues, multiple issues you could have. Losing money with your account going down. Your account could get outright suspended. I haven't seen that to where you can never get it back, but it's down because you promoted some porn offer, then you have to re-explain it, eventually comes back up. Or you had a campaign running for a while, Google, Facebook didn't refund you, and it's several $1,000s, and you have to eat that cost. The people that spend more money You have to be the most careful, like I said, because if you spend 50 grand a month, they can have a campaign that spends 5 grand a month and you won't notice it. Whereas if you spend 5 grand a month, they may only have a campaign that spends 500 a day that they put in your account because they don't want you to notice it. Their goal is to literally spend enough, as much as they can, but not enough that you notice it, so it runs and runs and runs and runs for months and years. So as a last thing I could say is as well, we do it here. I'm checking our accounts every 3 days for any authorized campaigns, because when people do access your account, they usually set up a new campaign or a new ad group. And you can go through and sift through, is there any new campaigns, is there any new ad groups here? If you check it every 3 days, even if they did get in, you would notice it right away, and you could change the password, and you're only going to have up to 3 days worth of ad spend wasted. Which if you have an account that spends $1,000 a day, they have a campaign in there that they put in there $300 a day, it's still $1,000 you could lose, but at least it's only $1,000. Okay, so it's another small thing that you can also add to your security protocols. The more of it you do, the least likely you're going to have a problem, the least likely, and the less money you're of course also going to lose at the end of the day if your account does get compromised itself. But generally speaking, if you do the 2-factor authentication, you change your passwords at least once a week, as much of a pain in the ass it is, you will not really have a problem after that. You'll be in that 5% of people who, the people that hack these accounts don't give a shit about. They call it it's just like shrinkage that a brick and mortar store would have. They already know they're going to lose it. They're counting on losing it. It's too much work to be able to monetize you, so to say, and so you're not a statistic of the easy marks that they really are normally going after and make all their money off of. So with that said, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope this really helps you. If you like the video, want to help me get it out to people so these crooks don't get access to people's accounts, appreciate liking, potentially commenting also on this video. It'll help the algorithm get it out there. If you like making money, learning, let's just put it this way. If you want to make money with PPC and learn how to do that from somebody who's been doing PPC for a long time, I recommend you subscribe to this channel. I feel like I have the best PPC strategy, money-making strategy channel on YouTube, and I've created it because I wanted good information to be out there so people could actually learn how to make money with PPC. And so there'll be content regularly coming out with that information on it. Or I teach you my exact strategies I'm using for our clients here, and that actually and actively work out there today as we're using them and as we're doing them for our clients. You can also actually find alternate information about other PPC strategies we use more so on a step-by-step basis if you go to our blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog, which I personally write there. If you want to learn on a more step-by-step basis, you might also find use of information there as well if you like this channel. If you have any questions about your security stuff, what you should do, what you can do, is it good enough, so on and so forth, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a day or two time. So with that said, hope you enjoyed this video, hope it helped, and I hope to see you on my next one that comes out in another couple days with an actual PPC money-making strategy versus a protection strategy that just stops you from losing. See you later.